Cop questions. David Usick, retired police officer, author of The Giant Killer. Joe Stevenson actually asked me a very interesting question, something no one's ever asked me, and it's about football, my experience. I mentioned once or twice I played high school and college football. He said he likes my common sense approach to most things. His son is about to turn 14, and his son wants to play high school football, and he appreciates my comments on it. So he wanted to know my thoughts and my experiences. Thank you so much for the question. It's actually interesting. Usually people ask me about my book or just basic cop stuff, which I usually like to answer. Football, the best of times, the worst of times. Some really great things for me. Football, it got me a scholarship to the University of Stony Brook to play football. It helped me, go to college. But I do think some of my injuries, not exactly, I'll explain how, were caused by it. So what are the great things that happened to me with football? I came from a single family home, blue collar home. My mom raised me and my brother. She was working, 14 years old, growing up in Brooklyn. There is a lot of trouble for a young man to get into who has too much free time, who doesn't have something focusing him on his discipline. And that goes for anyone, daughters, sons, all of them. So for me, my brother, in his last year of high school, started playing football. My brother forced me at 14 years old to play football. It's very, very small, very skinny, very scrawny guy. Matter of fact, I did want to go into the JV once, and they told me I was too small and skinny. So my brother put in a good word. So I ended up playing high school football. So what did it do for me? It got me off the streets. It gave me discipline. It gave me something to do, gave me some place to go to. But the most important, the discipline, but also the mental toughness. What's mental toughness? Mental toughness is, and I can hear my old coach, Marty Senel, in my head saying, fourth quarter, suck it up. Mental toughness is when you are exhausted, whether for whatever reason, mental, physical, pain, financial, divorce. And he just says, just suck it up. Just keep going. The other thing I learned is how far your body can go. So your body gives you these false things, maybe if you've never been pushed, where I could run a mile, run 2 miles, I don't know, and then I'm tired, I got this thing in my rib, I need to stop. The coach pushed us past that point. So we understood, we could do 5 miles, 6 miles, but you don't know it unless somebody pushes you past that point of really being uncomfortable. So listen, that was great. It really helped me as a young man. There were some problems, and I'm not blaming anybody, but we just didn't know. We were lifting as heavy weights as we could at 14 years old. We were all trying to bench 300 pounds. Nobody taught us how to lift weights. Nobody taught us how to warm up. We would do max for football every 2 weeks. I think we had to get 10 pounds stronger. And we'd do this one max bench press every 2 weeks, for the coach. And we wouldn't warm up. We would psych ourselves up. We were told, no, don't warm up. You're going to tire yourself out. Psych yourself up. Go scream and bang your head against the locker room. So some of those things are backwards. We don't do that anymore. I'm not blaming anybody. I remember also in high school, we had a thing called Hell Week in the middle of the summer in New York, and it gets hot. It gets in the 90s. We would do like 2 or 3 hours straight of just nonstop moving, and you were a pussy, sorry for my language, if you drank water. So back then, water made you a pussy. If you asked for water, then you were weak-minded. Now we know water's, staying hydrated, keeping your athletes hydrated. So there was a learning curve in some of the things. Like I said, as far as injuries-wise, I think that the not learning how to lift weights properly as a young person when your joints aren't really developed is very dangerous. More dangerous than the hitting in football, because remember, 14 years old, you can only throw your body into somebody at a certain amount of power and force, and the other guys are, for the most part, are about your size and strength, maybe 20 pounds more or 50 pounds, but it's not so on-off that the impacts are going to hurt you. Obviously, the head stuff, I had concussions. We didn't know about concussions. Or I remember we switched from a Rydell helmet. Rydell had like these pads inside there to a bike. Bike had air. You pump it up with air. But that first year I played with the first brand new version of a bike helmet, nobody told us to put the air in. We thought the air was in. So I played half a season with no air, and I was getting all these concussions. That's why I'm so intelligent today. So that's one of those things. But as far as all my injuries and all my problems, it made me who I am today. It made me push through all the problems. It gave me discipline. God knows what I could have done on the streets or what bad things I could be involved in. So it really did save my life. Had the greatest coach. Tough. He was a U.S. Marine, ex-U.S. Marine. Tough dude. I mean, he was scary and tough. And he taught us to be tough. I mean, there was some things, if you had a problem with another guy in football and there was an issue, the coach would put you in the locker room, which was like a cage, and you guys just handled it. You handled your business in the cage. He locked the cage. You went in there in 20 minutes. Hopefully both of you guys went out. A little bit of different times. We don't do it that way anymore. And I'm not condoning violence in any way, but it's safer that way than some other ways, for young people to get out aggression. When I went to college, things kind of changed. College was a lot more serious, wasn't as fun as high school. High school was more team and fun. College was more about business. I played both ways in high school. I was a tight end and an outside linebacker or defensive end. And in college, I was just an outside linebacker. Something really crazy happened in college, which people are going to say this can't be true, but it was a fluke and it happened. When I went to Stony Brook, I was a little young. I was 17. I just turned 18. Decent size. By then, I was already putting on size. I was probably 230 pounds, 6'2", 230. But it wasn't 6'2", 230 and 18 years old is not man muscle. That's kid muscle, and it's a little different. Those who play sports would know a 25-year-old man at 230 compared to an 18-year-old. It's a different type of strength. Even if on a bench press they can do similar, it's a different type of strength. So when I went to college, I was an outside linebacker, and I was good at offense, and as a freshman, I almost started. But not that I wasn't super fast. I had good lateral movement, and I did really like to hit. And I came from a really great violent program in Brooklyn where, we were a very physical team. So that part I had. So in college, I don't remember the circumstances of why all our offensive linemen went down. There were a couple of fluke injuries. There were a couple of guys who got suspended, and there were a couple of guys who flunked out for some sort of education thing. We were left with no offensive linemen. In the season, where do you get offensive line? So here I am, an 18-year-old, 230-pound kid, not an offensive lineman, not built. Now, Stony Brook is Division II, so it's not Division I, which is the best, but still the defensive tackles you're going against, some of them 21-year-old men, are 280, 300 pounds, maybe 270 to 280. I am way outsized, way outclassed, way out strengthened, and that didn't do great for my body. I did okay. I held my own, but I wasn't built to be a lineman. Certainly, crazy as it was, they put me at offensive guard, which I'm not built to be an offensive guard, but I was, like I said, I was very physical. I like to hit, so I can kind of make up on some of my aggression, but in the end, the toll it took on my body, offensive linemen, well, back then, now everybody does it, but back then only offensive guards did this thing called pulling, where we kind of run sideways and we run as fast as we can into a defensive tackle, which is usually about 280 pounds, and that puts a tremendous hit on your shoulder, or if you use your head, whatever you're using, but you're sprinting 5 yards and then you're hitting somebody 50 pounds heavier from the side, but still it's a big impact on your body. And I separated my shoulders a bunch of times. I had 11 surgeries, but some of the surgeries for the separations and issues there. So to wrap it all up, I just went into a whole thing. Have your son play football. Just monitor them, be careful, watch for them. There are injuries. Most important thing, like I said from the beginning, is make sure they're learning how to lift weights properly. Make sure they know how to warm up. Make sure they're not going crazy with the weights. They know how to balance it. Because I think it's from 14 to 20, your joints are just not ready yet. So that's a really crucial part to make sure, you're not supposed to be powerlifting at 14 years old. Maybe the athletics and football is okay, but when you put the heavy weightlifting, it's just too much on the body. So thanks for the question, guys. Keep them coming.